For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
This is WFO Radio.
Welcome back, WFO Radio on the air, a special day and time, midweek, WFO After Dark, depending on where you are, of course. We got Leah Pruett getting ready to go out on the Western Swing. We're going to talk about the big win at America's Racetrack, the Summit Racing Equipment NHRA Nationals. I heard a stat today, because there's a big story on NHRA.com with Neil, and it's all Tony Stewart Racing, but Neil Strasbaugh, who is hopefully going to be joining us on this show as well, says they have more round wins this year already than all of last year, and they got a race win last year in Denver. We're going to talk about all of that, the big test, the race win, all of it, and whatever else happens to come up. So we ask you to share the show. We see Leah already down there. Share the show as we are WFO After the Dark. But I do want to tell you about the people who make it possible for me to do this show. I'll give you the deets later on. But of course, Total Seal Piston Rings, FTI, the folks at Foggett doing great things for the sportsman racers and anybody who spends a ton of money on their engine. Bernie Speed Shop and Phillips Connect, all on board with WFO Radio, plus Marvin Rodak and Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, and of course, samtech.edu, all make it possible for me to do this show whenever we want to do it. So share the show. Let's go. Let's bring on our guest of honor. Oh, we got both of them. Here's Leah. First of all, what's up, Leah? How are you?
I'm doing great. Sorry, I was surprised right there. A bird just came and smacked itself against the window. I'm here in Columbus, Indiana. I
heard it. Just so you know, I heard a bang and I had no idea what it was. I was just going to move on, and it was a bird smashing into your window.
It must be some type of good omen, because two of our guys on the way to Norwalk had an encounter with a bird. Trim, our chiropractor friend, had an encounter with a bird. Anyway, lots of birds flying around. But I am here in Columbus, Indiana, taking as much of a breather as we can before we head off to the Western Swing. I know Neil's trying to get on, and this was really cool, I think, and important to me that Neil is able to be on this show, especially for the listeners, because us drivers get to talk about the wins and the win lights and what's happening at the track. But, you know, when you have someone as gold as Neil, where tuning the race car capabilities are there, but also he's a very personable guy. And I think fans will enjoy getting to know him as they have throughout the years, but more so as he becomes more of this established crew chief.
Well, and I love we're talking about him is the best, because he can't do anything right now. In a second, we'll bring him on and but I'm really going to kind of lean on you. Normally, I would interview you about this race win, but in this case, and we got some stories to share, but let's bring Neil out in front of the world in a way that you're going to be. I've got a couple of notes that I can drop as best as I can, but this guy is kind of leading a wave, hopefully, of new crew chiefs, younger crew chiefs, a next wave that we absolutely have to have. He ran his mentor, Mike Green, in the final round for a win. And that's a story that's like right under the surface that maybe people don't realize. People don't just let you touch their nitro cars without having some experience. And this guy is now in the role, a win last year, another win this year. It's like, it's a really big deal. I hope everybody gets it.
It's most definitely a big deal. And I say that from the inside, is seeing the work that he's doing and the ingenuity that he's having to come up with. You know, the greats that are out there are not just handing out their notebooks and playbooks and going, here's the setup and go run and make it just a little bit better. Each one of Alan Johnson and Mike Green and Hogan, they've come up with their own systems to get that competitive edge for their teams. And that's what Neil and Mike have had to do. So 2022, establishing the team, but in our off season and the work we did in preseason tests that we talked a lot about and didn't really produce immediately from it. We're seeing the fruits of that right now. And that is a lot of thought processes and risk, I would say, that was taken in the off season of a dedicated path, not knowing what the outcome would be and if it would even work. So it starts from all levels, but starts really with Tony Stewart allowing Neil to have this availability and freedom to go down this path, not necessarily a rabbit hole, but, keeping updated. And every time we had small little ticks away, Neil talk when this is an acceleration game, right? It's not, we all love the mile an hour. And, I've only been 334 miles an hour, not 5 or 3.6 or 3.7, but the acceleration game for the CT starts at starting line and then the first 60 feet of getting that car up and going. So we've been working a lot with our vehicle dynamics, and that's something that I'm really proud of what we've accomplished because of all the focus that Neil and Mike have put into this big part of the program. And as we are kind of conquering that in our own world, then you have your next step of what's happening at 330 and how do you make that acceleration game become better and the events that happen in the car at that time. And of course, as we go to different tracks and the characteristics of those tracks change how we run the car specifically to us.
Well, let's bring him on, and thank you to everybody out there. You got a lot of fans checking in, saying congratulations. Jimmy out there saying congratulations. Matt's down there in Sydney, Australia, 10 a.m. saying what's up. Lauren saying congratulations. Everybody, your comments in the comment section. All right, Neil, you've had enough time to prepare. Here we go. We're bringing you into the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Neil Strasbaugh. What's up, Neil? How are you?
Hey, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on here. My computer, go figure. We've been living in a Zoom world, so I thought I would be able to get this thing connected, but with the minutes ticking away for the start of your show, my computer's decided to give me fits. So yeah, here I am on my phone.
The phones have better cameras. Everyone will tell you. We get to see you better. You look great. You sound great. This was a huge win. It started off with that Friday. We almost lost Friday, but we didn't, and we got it in, and we got that big run on Friday night, which was just awesome for the fans. Like Nitro at night, nothing better, but that was a big part of how things ended up playing out. Talk a little bit, I want to hear you guys talk to each other. I've got very little to add. I'm sorry, audience, but in this case, I got very little to add, but I would love to hear you guys kind of game it out because it's not just race day. Everything goes together.
Well, starting off going into Norwalk, there was, I believe there was 20 cars on the sheet for qualifying, which from a tuning aspect, if there's 16, obviously that's a game changer for us. For the fans, obviously we want to see 30 cars on property, but from a tuning aspect, as soon as there's 17, the pucker factor goes up on these qualifying runs because, especially Chicago, we had a great turnout. There's a lot of good cars on property, and the better the turnout of cars, the lower the bump spot's going to be, the less chance you have to screw it up. It's we see it all the time with from time to time with the big teams, fully funded, full-time touring teams, and you fall a run or two behind, and then all of a sudden you're staring down that barrel of not qualifying, and nobody wants to be in that situation.
I would say too, coming from Epping, where it was the ultimate delay after delay, and there were teams come Monday that just were itching to pack up, go home, and we were one of the teams of we are here, we are ready, we will race. If there's cars in the trailers, we'll drag ours up to the starting line. And our mentality has just been to race and to race. And then Bristol, for us, we didn't get to finish the Mission Foods Challenge. We had won that first round, but due to the rules, they didn't get to finish it. And so going into Bristol, all of this just compounded this hunger that we had. Now, it doesn't change the tune-up, so to speak, that goes into the car. It just really streamlines, for what Neil and Mike have to do to make it go down. And then Friday, getting to run, it was 10:15, right? So you're waiting all day, and we ran at 10:15 at night. And it doesn't get any cooler than that. You make a great run, but there's still two pairs behind you. And you're thinking, all right, things are going to be within a couple thou, and it was, right? 64 with the 4 to 64 with a 8, I think Torrence was. So, and you're happy for a little bit for these little points. That's the first thing that we talk about. All right, good job, everybody. 3 points right there. And then immediately you just go into Saturday of like, is that going to stick? How many more points can we get? And so we look at things one thing at a time. I know people talk about big pictures of we want the Wally and we want the bonus money and when we want to gather all these points, but for us, we have to do it round by round. And then come Sunday, though each one of those rounds were shifty. I mean, with the weather coming in, you had a cloud cover and that's going to change. That changed the track temp, 10, 12 degrees within minutes. And the way that we run our program is very susceptible to that. So I'd say Neil's pucker factor for Norwalk was up there. And we had some, you want us to talk about the dialogue that we had during that day.
Just want to point out, you can talk about whatever you want. Like, honestly, if you guys don't want to talk about the race, I'm down to whatever. You want to talk 4th of July, I'm down for that too. Whatever. But since the word pucker factor has been mentioned now 3 times in the last 60 seconds, maybe this should be like a graphic on Fox or something, like in the corner, like a scale, or I don't know what it would look like, how it would work.
On a 1 to 10, what run was that?
Exactly. What was the PF factor or the factor? I don't know. Just kicking around. We're at a different time. It's going to be a different show. Neil, what say you?
So, yeah, I guess going back to that first qualifying run, after we were, rain delayed and then they canceled one session. So, yeah, going back to that, Mike Domagala, we were up there talking and it was kind of back and forth on, yeah, I always find a way to try and make a joke out of most every situation, which probably drives some people nuts. But, he says, well, what do you think we should run? I said, well, I think we should run low ET, but I want the drive shaft, to look safe, which those two things really never go together. But that was my wish. And we got one of those wishes out of it. It did run low ET that night, but get back and download it. There was a couple sketchy spots where it was, as I would use the terminology, it was trying to throw up, maybe a little excessive drive shaft speed in a couple spots, but it was on edge. And anytime you're going to run at the top of the pack, you have to be.
And coming from Bristol, I heard a lot of people say that Bristol with the tunnels is got a lot of character. It's very challenging. It's tough on a car. To Norwalk, what's similar track surface wise? Anything?
They're both beautiful facilities with great ownership, but there definitely is some characteristics in those tracks. We all love running in the mountain there in Bristol. We qualified number 1 there, had a really good run, but we just couldn't follow through with that. We were struggling, had a couple minor part failures that knocked us out there in Bristol. But going to Norwalk, it's a super flat racetrack. Really good surface area. The Baders know how to put on a show. They always have, whether you run there at Night Under Fire, whether you run there at the national event, we're kind of in a string of these races right now where we've got some killer ownership that's playing parts in that, going to Vandermeer next. But no, that track is known for having a really good surface. So yeah, it really didn't have anything to do with the facility itself. The only reason that we didn't run better is because we didn't get 2 shots at it. If we would have had one more shot on Friday, where we kind of, I always describe it as we're kind of the only professional sport that comes out and we don't get to warm up necessarily. We don't, especially if it turns into a 3 qualifying run event. Our Friday night run often sets the field or comes close to it. So we have to unload it off the trailer, and I say we kind of start off in a sprint. We don't get to make that Q1 warm up lap if it's a Friday night.
Right. And one thing I want to emphasize, I was down at the top end for NHRA on Fox, which is such a great place to be, watching you get out, Leah, and the drivers having conversation. It's quiet. It's a really great spot, and I'm thrilled to have been able to get back down there again. But Nitro at night, man, we got to find a way to do this more often. It is the greatest spectacle that we have. Watching those cars come down the track through the darkness, like from the light of the track into the darkness of the shutdown area. Like it's surreal. I don't have the vocabulary to describe how great it is and have it be impactful to everyone down there. Then the fireworks go off and the smoke and the lights and it's just so amazing. Nitro at Night. Are you guys getting barraged with questions about that like I do as soon as we have one session like that after dark, a 10 p.m. session? Everybody,
the fans come back and ask if we're running again. If they think that you're getting 2 in that day, then they think that you might be running at midnight. I would say from a driver's perspective, when you're running top fuel on Friday, so you're at the end of the pack and you have funny car the whole session, and if you have a winless night like we had, and especially a place like Chicago or Charlotte, so you've got all the burnout smoke and you have all the nitro and you have no wind, yes, you might have great lights like Norwalk has, but the lights penetrate off of what's in the air, so it's not actually particularly reaching the ground and the groove. And if there's any driver that says that a night session is absolutely no big deal, they are lying to you. You roll around the corner, and as a driver, right, you're not far off the ground at all, and all you see is everyone's butts and the back of their pants and their shoes, and you can't even tell what the car does in front of you because there's so many people and people checking the track while you're doing your burnout, and all I see are the cones. Drivers drive in a different way. They look for the marker that's at the 1,000 foot off of the wall. I go by the cones, and making a hit and knowing that, all right, we're hooked up. We're still hooked up. Okay. And I'm so excited when I can see that final 1,000 foot cone is coming. That's all I see. And then after that, it is pitch dark. So from looking at the starting line to the finish line, nothing's in front of you and everything's clear off the track. And Safety Safari does a great job of making sure that it's safe, but it is this black absolute tunnel. And what changes for a driver is really your placement for the track when it's that dark. So you really have to feel more about what the car is doing and moving, because you don't have that perspective like you do in the daytime. But I will say, this car that I have and what Neil built in the beginning of the structure and what we call a standard car through PBRC has been the most enjoyable race car that I've ever had the privilege of driving. I'm able to drive it. It doesn't kick the front end up, for 200 feet and sit down and get wiggling and have to chase it and dog walk or anything like that. So when I get in the car and Neil says, we're going to go fast, and I believe him, there's never any doubt in my mind, like, yeah, this might be one or we're going to throw it up. Well, if there's that one, it's because we're absolutely trying and we're trying to improve even more. But for me, my enjoyment factor has really risen driving the car because I'm able to drive it, because I have the confidence that we're going to do well. And like I say, a lot of times at the track, going fast is my favorite thing to do there. So those night sessions, like I really get pumped up for. Sundays, there's more nervous factors, like emotions all the same, whether you're nervous or fearful. Those are all things that happen in your body, but the excitement factor for me for Friday nights are always awesome. And so looking forward to Bandimere Friday night at my favorite track in the whole circuit is just like, you see me happy for weeks. Not just because I got to see fireworks last night with Neil and his family and Ryan, and we have half of TSR there. Just everything that we do is really cohesive right now, and I think it shows.
Yeah. Oh, you supplied the fireworks, Neil?
No, I did not supply those. That was thanks to Alex Conway and the family. But no, we all met up and watched an excellent fireworks show last night.
That's awesome. That is now. Listen, 4th of July, my favorite holiday, definitely. Okay, so for everybody, as we recap this and we get ready for the Western Swing, it was a weird weekend in Norwalk because the rain just had everybody on the edge. It had been rain in New England, it had been rain in Bristol, and now here a little rain in Norwalk, and there was some antsiness, and just we ran until 12:30 at night on Saturday night. Like, it was just a very weird and odd schedule and had everybody kind of on the edge. But then Sunday race day came, and it felt much more normal to me. We had our pre-race show. We did our marquee matchups, and then we got started. Your first round matchup, I guess, was Kyle Wurzel, right? Quick car. You got Dominic Lagano over there. Stewie helping out. Kyle could definitely jump out. But the moment, I don't like to see racers get the yips or whatever you want to call it. But this is a very difficult moment to deal with, having to square up with someone on the starting line, let alone the number one qualifier. So he goes red. But was that distracting to you? Was that it's got to throw you out of your rhythm?
It definitely threw me out of my rhythm. And when you look at the weekend as a whole, though, so Saturday was first round of Top Alcohol. And if anybody had watched that, there were 4, if not 5 red lights and cars that are just bucking at the starting line and 2 steps everywhere. And so that was, you could see that buildup of that class waiting to run and emotions getting to them. But then for us, come Sunday, I really try and stay focused on my lane, my tree. Doesn't matter who I run. Like, there are some drivers I know that will play games. And so just try and stay in my own rhythm, and was expecting anything to happen over there, whether a top bulb go out or a hangout or whatever it might be. Just keep my cadence. And as soon as we got staged, it is something you are not expecting, is another car absolutely launching. So not only did I hear it and see it, I grabbed brake because my body wanted to leave as well. So I grabbed brake and and just kind of froze, make sure that is what that was, because it was undeniable. But as severe as that red light was in the other lane, and then hit the gas, and we were on a run that was not as perfect as we would like it to be. And so shut it off before the finish line and won with a 4:05. And so that really kind of started the wave of the day of things not going quite perfect. So as we go into round 2, we didn't really have our great race day setup because of the problems that we had in our own car from round 1. So going into round 2, Salinas is a huge deal for us. And for those that don't know, Ryan McGilvery, who was our car chief and very instrumental in making sure that everything runs properly and does a great job handling the guys. He came from Salinas and their startup team, and this team as TSR had yet to beat Mike Salinas. And I think it's been 3 or 4 times we've been up against him. So that round win, Ryan pulls me into the beams and he taps on the front wheel, but that tap, that was extra. There was a lot more in that. And I'm like, yep. At that moment, it reminded me I was against Salinas, because I had forgotten the whole time once I burned out and backed up, as you're supposed to do. And I'm like, all right. And that race was so close. I think we were within 2 thou from the cars, both running 74s, and I had left first. And overall, that was a great win. But you look at the field, and what is the rest of the field doing in their matchups? And they're running 71s and 72s. And so we know that even though we're going rounds, that we have an exuberant amount of work to do to get us to a spot as we keep going rounds. But what I will say is, being number 1 qualifier really kind of leads this yellow hat road into a better race day. And you've seen that over the years with the champions that are continuously qualifying number 1 or number 2, and they're having a better start to their Sundays by who they're up against in those early rounds of eliminations and gathering those points. So the number 1 qualifier is it's very much expanding of what it means, besides confidence in a team and getting your car running well down the track. It really means a lot in the big picture. And that's kudos to I'd say the mentality that Neil has had this year, and he's very verbal about it, because we have to remind ourselves to be this way. What is that word, Neil?
Aggressive.
Aggressive. Well, hey, listen, aggressive, right? You got to go after it in every sport. We just had the NBA Finals, and the games that the teams were winning. Like, I was following the Heat, obviously, and the games that they were aggressive and taking it to the hoop, they were winning. And the games that they were laying back a little bit, we're talking fractions of a second here, they were losing. That's the difference between winning and losing. Going for it, getting out there, getting aggressive. Now, sometimes it's going to bite you. And so how do you manage that, Neil?
Well, No, I guess that was probably one of the largest learning curves that I had as being a first-time crew chief. Obviously, there's so many decisions that fall on the performance of the race car, and it's more than just the elapsed time going down the racetrack. It's parts attrition. It's making sure that we're not hurting the engine. I mean, it can be. We can hurt a couple rod bearings. That may not be a big deal. You hurt them too bad, it throws the rods out. That may happen a couple times a year to a team. If it throws the rods out, it could throw the blower off of the thing. So, I mean, it can go from hurting a couple rod bearings that, may cost a couple $100 to, $100,000 explosion. So it's very hard to have, especially as a first year crew chief, to have the aggressiveness and knowing those boundaries of how much can I tune the engine up? How much can I push this thing? How hard can I pull on it in the middle of the course? Knowing, do I have enough fuel in it? Is it going to get lean? Is it going to try and burn itself up? So those, that was a huge learning curve, obviously just finding those boundaries last year, but probably the hardest thing was, as a first year tuner, if it would just go down the racetrack, I had a lot of pride in that. I think anybody who's ever ran one of these knows that it is just, there's so many ways to screw it up. It's just unbelievable. So anytime it was just making an A to B run, I was like, okay, we're on the right path. We're learning. It's not hurting itself. The downside of that is you keep getting your butt whooped because you're not running quick enough. And then, you fall back in the point standings. But honestly, the turning point to that was at the end of the season. Myself and Leah and Tony had a meeting and just about, hey, what are we going to do? I know that finishing 11th isn't, that's not acceptable. That's not what we built this program to do. So what are we going to do? We talked about a lot of different options. We're all very open. We all talk about it. I've been in the game long enough to know that the crew chief's performance goes one of two ways. You either hang on and you perform well enough, or you get shipped down the road. So, but ultimately throughout that conversation, Tony and Leah just reassured me. They just said, hey, whatever we got to do to make it better. And this has probably never been outside of that meeting, but, I was just told, they said, you need to just run the race car and don't worry about losing your job. You just need to focus on running the race car and doing the best job you can do. And don't worry about what's going on behind that. And that was probably the biggest turning point for me, is like, man, okay, after I kind of flubbed up this first season here and they've still got my back 110%, as they always have. But I put that pressure on myself to do better. And ultimately at the World Finals, when we ran 66, that was also another defining moment of my season where I must have heard at PRI, I heard from our sponsors, I heard from so many people, like, over and over again, hey, how about that 66? How about that 66? And I was just, here's a first-time crew chief. I'm thinking, well, my down track percentage is better than running that 66, but it stands out more that we made that one aggressive run. So again, kind of these eye-opening moments for me, just being allowed to be aggressive. I'm allowed to be. If we're going to smoke the tires, Tony does not. I mean, he just looks at me, shrugs his shoulders.
Love it.
Yeah, no, but he's just kind of like,
it's a process.
I mean, hey, if you're trying. Like, he's not going to just jump down my throat for that. So that helps a lot. It allows us to be aggressive. When you're running on edge, you're going to screw it up. You're going to smoke the tires. We did it against Austin Proc this year in Pomona, and I just. It's just part of all these cars are running so close together that you can't just drag it up there just to be okay.
Are you there? Okay. So I think about myself, what I do first couple of years at NHRA. I wanted to keep the job, right? I just didn't want to get fired. So I was like really in a narrow range of what I was doing. And then after I realized, okay, I'm probably not going to get fired now. I would have been fired by now. I like opened up a little bit and started doing a little more stuff. Every once in a while, try to say something funny or whatever. Like, open up, relax, just relax. Like, okay, golfers, baseball players, everything. Like, you're better when you can just relax and be in the moment. But if you're so desperate, like, man, I want to keep this job so badly. I got everything that I wanted my whole life. Finally, both of you. Mm-hmm. Finally, I got everything that I wanted. And this is it. And the most important thing is just not losing it. That's going to be the reason you lose it. And it's like, that's got to be really difficult to get past.
And it doesn't happen overnight, even with having that opportunity, like me driving for Tony and Neil managing and running and tuning this team. That mentality just doesn't just get wiped away. I mean, it's been ingrained in our minds and like our neural pathways for it. So it's now, year and a half of running like this. That's not our dominant thought. And so it takes a little bit of a while to get used to that. For me as a driver, I've been working on trying to be the most consistent driver for the race car, as opposed to the most consistent driver of just cutting these lights and trying different things, because I was operating out of, how do I not mess up and just don't mess up? And so I've worked with a number of different people, including Neil in our own group, of just that comfortability of it's going to happen at some point, but just keep going instead of living in that kind of dark cloud zone. So I think a standout moment for me of Norwalk was I had gotten in the car before Austin Prock, and the last time we had ran him was in the final of the 4-wide. And he was playing some games, I think, with Torrence that he wanted to. Well, there's 4 people in that race.
Right.
And I'd kind of seen what was happening and made my moves. And I believe I was first one that had left in that quad with a 36 or 42 or something like that, even though Austin ended up winning that race. But then I get in the car, I'm getting suited, and I'm a pretty pumped up person. I think people would contest to that. And I see how he gets in, and he's a jacked up guy. If no one's ever watched Austin in the staging lanes, I mean, I fist pump, he chest pumps people, and like he's going UFC fight and everything. And I saw that, and I was like, man, he thinks he's more pumped up than me. I know what pumped up is, but he has a much better average consistently. And I go, all right, well, this is not Leah. This is not Leah versus Austin. This is Leah versus Leah. I don't need to be any more pumped up than I already am. And I want this really bad, like really, really bad. And that was probably my very much most focused run of the day. And we were coming off of Neil, it was a lot of silence, I think, in between that round, because there was a lot of thinking happening and moves being made in between up in the crew chief lounge. So I had more time to really concentrate on what it is, what do I need to do? And I was proud of that, to leave on Austin. That's very, rare for hardly anybody to do. And that was I think a 45 to, he had probably his worst light of the year, maybe. And I know he wasn't happy about that, but that's the aggressive competitor that he is. And that's why I love racing him, is because I feel like we are the same competitor, but we operate on different wavelengths. So that gave me confidence in that I know what to do in those big heated times. And you go into the final and you really have to modulate emotions at that point, because there's been a time where you're excited that you got to the final. If somebody told you on Friday that you were going to make it and be in the final round, you'd be like, this is awesome. But it's a different mentality. It's, we made it to the final, but we are not there. We have not won. And what do we have to keep doing? What do we have to keep doing to win? Not winning, but what does it take to continue to win? So I had that same mentality going up against Justin. I mean, who I think, as all the numbers show, the best lever, most consistent, nothing rattles him. So, I don't do anything to rattle him, try to stage shallow, do the best that I can, get drilled by him. But what do we have? We had a fast race car, and we had a race car tuned by Neil, who was an apprentice of Mike Green. And we didn't talk about that before the run, and it was about an hour and a half before I got to see Neil after we won the final. We're in the winner's circle, and I asked him, I was like, did it go through your mind, about running Mike? He goes, oh my God. I mean, you could say it, Neil, but yeah, he's like, absolutely. I wanted to beat him so bad.
Yeah. Tell us, Neil. Well, you've raced Mike last year en route to your win at Vandermeer. I think you guys ran in the semis. So it had happened before, but not in the final. And like teacher versus student, all of that stuff for the race win. That's what they make movies about.
Well, there's no doubt. I would not be where I am today without Mike Green. I worked directly under him for 15 years. We've been friends much longer than that. So it's a huge respect factor. He's like a father figure to me, really, as much time as we've spent together over the years. But, his text after the race was just classic. He says, I'm pretty sure I enjoyed watching you win more when I wasn't in the other lane. So it was, but obviously he was just joking around. But no, huge respect factor. I do talk to him quite a bit. Anytime I see the ladder that we're lined up on opposite sides of the ladder, the constant joke is always just, hey, I hope we race today, because if you're on opposite sides and you race, that means you've had a really good day. You're in the final. So, and that's just, we say that a lot, usually doesn't play out. And then, the way they were running, they ran 71 in the semis. And I was like, geez, if we do this again, we are going to get spanked. So, we were, as Leah was saying, it was kind of a scramble of a race day. Putting that cylinder out first round just kind of knocked me around a little bit. I was super aggravated with that, even though we got the round win, but then trying to recover from that and just, trying to ensure that we don't do that again is the biggest thing. But, by the time we got to the final round, I had spent like the last hour between rounds, between the semis and the final, trying to figure out how we're going to get to run 71, speeding everything up. We get up there, the sun's just blazing. The track's up from about 108 degrees. It's up to 122 degrees from the semis to the finals. And then I just start backpedaling. I'm changing shit as fast as I can get a hold of the knobs. And, it's just, there was no way we were going to be able to run 71 on that racing, on that surface in the final round. So, no, it just worked out. Obviously, they've been running up and down the racetrack. I don't know. It's like if they get out of first round, there was some stat like they hadn't been beat this year.
Right. They had never been beaten if they got out of the first round. You're the first person to beat Justin in a round other than round one.
Well, that's
crazy stat.
That's just luck. Eventually those stats are going to go against you, right? You can't run with that forever. So,
right.
No, it just worked out. Justin and that whole, Davis Motorsports group over there, now JCM, partially owned, however that all worked out. They're just super great people to have out there racing with. Dustin, he comes by. He's the most glorified owner tire guy on the planet. Like hands are pitch black because he's been the clutch assistant all day, and then comes up and congratulates us in the winner's circle. So no, there's just a great group of people over there.
They are supreme. And for people that see Justin on TV, that's exactly how he is in person. Just the most polite person, I think that we know and love him. And I just think he's absolutely incredible for the sport.
Absolutely.
Likable. Very likable person. I think people trying to figure out what he's all about, right? Like he seems to be like, sometimes trying to be the corporate guy who no, man, he's just a really nice kid who is genuinely a good-hearted person who will rip your throat out on the starting line immediately. So
I'm going to Neil's point about, well, how do we not do that again? How do we not drop these cylinders that have kind of recently been plaguing us? So we went on Sunday, wrap everything up because there's a huge storm coming. And the funny car teams, Matt Hagan, their Dodge team, they also made it to the final. They didn't win. And you know what they did? They came over and they helped tear our pit down and make sure that our awning poles were in. And that just shows they're disappointed right? Anybody would be from losing a final, but we do say, and we do live this one team, all team motto. And that's just a perfect example of it. They came right over once their stuff was done. And it wasn't that we were blown up or anything. And it was a scramble. It just was, when you see help that needs help, they're always in it to win it. And we are for their side. And yeah, wrapped up. And then where did we go? We went to Indy and we tested on Tuesday.
That was amazing that you guys went and just tested, like, right. Okay. We just won. I think that's smart though, right? You explain the methodology behind it, Neil. And there's a great bit, everybody, John Kernan did it. It's on NHRA.com about going to the Western Swing and 3 races in a row and how challenging it is. But you just won a race. Let's go learn some more. And you went out and tested.
Yeah, this off season we made a boatload of runs to get us started at the beginning of the season, and as Leah kind of started out with, that's really got us where we're at today. If it wouldn't have been for those runs, being able to try stuff and filter out what was working, what wasn't working, we would not be we wouldn't have won Norwalk, right? So it is miserable testing after a win. Even from my point,
thank you to our guys,
right? And it's more miserable for them. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't break a sweat. Those poor guys are out there just, bolting the thing together, just humping it, making runs, and we've got a diehard, killer group of guys that they just they know that our performance is coming from those test runs, even though none of us like it. It's extra time. It's time that we could be servicing our stuff, but they know that we're learning stuff. But we had some parts that we hadn't ran yet. We needed to run a spare clutch system. We ran a new fuel pump that didn't have any laps on it. We just needed to, run some of the parts through there just so that we're better set up. There's probably only going to be one more test. Maybe we're going to test after Brainerd before Indy, and that's our only kind of scheduled test. So we just needed to run a few of these parts through there in case we need them on the swing. Just trying to better prepare ourselves. Like, going into the countdown last year was by far my worst performance. Like, we struggled Brainerd, we struggled at Indy, and then it just continuously got worse into the countdown. So I'm doing everything in my power. Just we're mentally going to be ready to go into the countdown. We're physically going to be ready. We're going to have all the parts lined up. We're going to have a tuning plan that we're not going to deviate from, and hopefully finish a lot better than we did last year.
All right, Neil, do you believe in superstition?
100%.
Okay. Did Leah tell you the superstition, the reason that you had never run well at Summit Motorsports Park?
Oh no, I didn't.
Nope.
Yeah, well, we uncovered this. Leah,
oh boy,
you want to explain why this was the time that you won, like what you did that really?
Sure, yes. So on Friday night after the provisional number 1 qualifier, I give the media interview, and then after that we're off camera, and Joe is there eating ice cream, and I was like, oh yeah, ice cream. He's like, you've never had it? I go, no. Out of all the years racing Norwalk, I've never had the ice cream. I go, maybe that's it. And he's like, you got to go right now. You got to go get some ice cream. So I ended up getting 2 scoops before it disappeared somewhere else. And we're like, if we win, that's the ticket. So I said on stage that we'll be getting fat together at Norwalk.
She even said it, Neil. It was really great because she's like, if a track has got a thing, you kind of got to do the thing. And I was like, yeah, you kind of got to do the thing. And ice cream's the thing. So she dove right in. She got some ice cream. She dove into the ice cream. I understand. Fitness conscious person like Leah doesn't want to dive into a pint of ice cream right before the end of the night. But she dove in. She ate the ice cream. She won the race. So,
I'm in. What's the thing in Vandermeer then? What do we need to do for Denver?
I don't know what the thing is. You already did it. You already won there. All right, let's move forward on that. Whatever the thing is, I think the thing is that this is like a one-off. Everybody wants to win this race. Period. End of story. This is the last race at this track. We're all devastated and sad. We get it, but devastated and sad. It's not like any other track you guys go to anyway. So you got special tune-ups and setups and everything. And this is one-off to be the final winner. at Bandimere Speedway. Not too many things bigger than that in our little drag racing world.
No,
yeah.
Go ahead, Leah.
As I was thinking about maybe what is the one-off thing, specifically for me, what has been a success factor is Dodge usually has the media event on Wednesday or Thursday and a ride and drive event. And so I've always been able to be a part of that with whichever new car has come out, whether it be the 1320 or the Demon, this year with the DC 170. And so I've always spent the first couple days already seeing that tree, running that track, being one with that track, and really encompassing everything that the Dodge Power Brokers, the dealers, the customers, the cars, that entire event encapsulates. And so for me, I get to do that again this year. So I feel like I'm already going to be staged up, ready for it. But yeah, for me overall, it's big. For those that may not know, I've been racing there since I was 8, or started when I was 8, got my first Wally there when I was 8. And it wasn't a personal trophy. It was a team trophy. And junior dragsters, you win as a team by collecting the most points to kick everyone's butt in the entire nation. I mean, you got Erica Enders and Courtney and Randy Lynn Ship, Stall Bombers. I mean, all these names, McClanathan, that you see that are now in these big ranks, and they're 30 and they're 40 years old. These are the kids that I was racing against when I was 8. So Bandimere is super special to me, where it's such a foothold, and really showed me in the beginning what it meant to race at a national event, because the Bandimere family treated us kids just like they treated the pros. And I think that's one of the reasons that I've always just fell in love with that family, besides the facility being like none other. But yeah, for me, I am trying to take that entire emotion module out of it, so that I can perform the best throughout that weekend. And then there'll be times where you're going to take in these moments, and you're going to have time with the fans and spend more time with the fans, just because it's not only special for us, it's special for those fans that, they save up all year to go to that one event, and it's the best that they'd ever do. And people have asked us, what event should we go to if we've only been to here or here? And I've been saying forever that you should always go to Bandimere, but I'm sure that there's tickets probably still available. Highly suggest that you get on it. I'm sure they're available at NHRA.com. But it's one where, for me, is the Super Bowl. U.S. Nationals.
That said it right there. No, it is, except there's going to be a U.S. Nationals next year. And that's crazy. What about you, Neil? Like, what's your Bandimere pre-race experience and your thoughts as you get ready?
I'm going to be completely honest. From the tuning side, I have a love-hate relationship with that place. As she was saying, the Bandimere family, it is the racetrack, the facility, the fans, the way they take care of everything there. It is such an awesome race. It's like none other. I mean, it's just such this family atmosphere. The fans come first there. The Bandimeres take such great care of the fans. It's just awesome. I've loved going to that place for many, many years. The downside is the elevation from a tuning standpoint. That part is, and it's just because it's taxing on us. It's gets us really out of our comfort zone, with blower overdrives and fuel volumes. And, it's the only track we go to that has got cooling systems in it. So we can be dealing with 110 degrees on the starting line track temperature, and it can be 140 to 150 degrees by the finish line. But they just put on such an awesome show. Again, it's just from the tuning up there. It has nothing to do with Bandimeres themselves. It's just built at altitude.
Yeah. And
you have to be the most robust combination and program that you have all year. I mean, we got a front half right before Norwalk by PBRC. So big thanks to Joe and Dan for getting that done. And, drivability there is a little bit different too. I mean, you change your wing angles, but you're susceptible if you're really getting after it, pulling a wheelie at 330 feet to half track. So You better be straight and square and come down nice and light. I mean, we saw when Schumacher a couple years ago and pulled that wheelie and that broke that front half. That puts you off to a really bad start to a Western swing. So I'm really confident in the actual physical race car that I have. And you just have to drive it a little bit different. And even though the shutdown is uphill, the chutes don't act the same, right? When you have less dense air, they don't catch the same. You don't slow down at the same rate of speed. You're still hauling absolute butt when you're turning off the track. So it's just it's the most diverse type of track, tuning wise and driving wise of the whole circuit. Most difficult, the most extreme, and the highest one that you would literally hold a trophy.
Well, think of all the innovations that have come from that facility. Larry Crisp with the rotators and the quads to get up the hill, the cooling system, their top eliminator club, like a lot of just crazy innovation coming out of that area. Maybe it's the thin air and the lack of oxygen. They come up with crazy stuff. I don't know. But it's going to be exciting and sad, all wrapped into one. The start of the Western Swing. Then we go to Seattle, which is different, and finish in Sonoma. I like that on paper. I don't know how it's going to actually be, but I kind of like the idea of finishing in Sonoma. What about you guys?
I like it. I'll be traveling with my guys and the crew in the rigs and tow vehicle to Seattle. So I like making a road trip out of that, and we'll stop and maybe go surfing, give them some type of little break in between. Going off into it, I don't know. I feel like if you don't have a decision in something, well, then you don't get to have a real opinion about it, right? Because then you have a negative, whether you like it or not. Like that's what's happening. So I like it when we mix things up a little bit, as long as it doesn't include eliminating racetracks.
Well, exactly. And Neil, what about you? You know, Seattle, like ending in Seattle last year, Seattle was so hot, man. It was 130 degrees. It was crazy. Sonoma ending in wine country, a little cushier, I think.
Yeah, no, it's I don't much care either way. I think probably the biggest positive, I think it's a little shorter drive home for our crew guys at the end of it, you know, coming home from Sonoma as opposed to Seattle. You know, that's it's treacherous for them. That's a lot of miles, a lot of work, obviously starting off at Bandimere at elevation. It's extremely taxing on them. But now as far as, again, they don't send a flyer out and ask us which direction we want to go. They just tell us where the race is at, and that's where we'll be. That's great.
Both of you guys, I really appreciate it. Leah, this was so great to have Neil on here. And, you know, just to hear kind of both sides of the story, the crew, so many underappreciated people in drag racing. Like I think about your team, you know, I'm friends with Booger and Wayne Red, and I was over there. Neil, where was that? It was New England. We were just trying to figure out how many rings you guys have independent of this team, you know, prior to. And this is an all-star team. This is like the replacements. There's movies about it. This is the Magnificent Seven or the Dirty Dozen. I don't know what it is. But everybody kind of assembled together to be a part of this thing, to do something special. They've all won championships before somewhere else. Now they want to win one together. And I think that's like an interesting character that this team has.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that's impressive that you pick up on that. We were super excited to be able to put a deal together from scratch. I've assembled a couple groups of crew members in the past, like in 2009, putting the Army program together with people, not necessarily with parts. That was already a running operation. And I definitely enjoy that. It's a task that is very unique. You know, we can find people that know how to turn wrenches. It's very difficult to find 7 crew members that can travel together, eat together, work together. They're around each other more than their significant others, and be able to just continue helping each other out, right? When one of them's down, pick them up and have each other's backs, keep working for the common goal. You know, it's a lot of hours on the road. These guys are around each other so much, but assembling a group that can have fun, make some enlightening situations out of some stuff when it's maybe not going so well. We drug them through the trenches last year with kind of the lull in performance. we drug our crew guys down to Florida this year and made 24 test runs before Q1, and they all signed up for that. They know those challenges are going to keep coming up, but the only way to get to the top is just keep climbing. So that's it's very important to have the group of guys that we've got.
I feel like if we had a different group, their, I don't want to say tolerance, but their enthusiasm, you have new team, and then you have new team glitz and glamour, potentially that wears off. But because we have such a professional group that has been through what it takes to have ultimate success, that's what's led us here. And them having Neil's back has been probably one of the most important things here. I mean, if Neil didn't feel like that they did, and I mean, when they say, are we making one more run? It's not like, 'cause I want to put my shorts on. It's like, do we need to make one more one, Neil? Like, are we doing this? And they are undeniably the foundation of us being able to stepstone to keep going up.
No, it's exciting. It's exciting. Well, and we need more like you, Neil. We need more of this, because we saw it when you guys tried to forward this team, this, crew chief shortage term that people threw out there. Like you said, we would be great if we had 30 cars. I think 22, 23 is fine. That's the right number in each category, frankly. But if we did get more top quality owners that wanted to come in and campaign cars like yours did, who would be the person to run them competitively in a way that's not having that $100,000 explosion that you talked about? We gotta get those guys. Like, that's got to be something in the mind of the sport collectively. Like, what are we going to do? Who's going to do that? And your success, it could give those guys confidence to give people an opportunity, because, Ron Tobler has been wanting to retire for a long time, and got to stay out there. You got to run the cars. So anyway, I congratulate you on your success, and more to come. And we're all loving watching it. Honestly, like, that's what it's all about. Watching you guys go through this fight. And I'm just excited about Bandamere. So thank you for spending an hour with me, guys. This is unbelievable.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Joe. And thanks to all the fans that tune in and come in person and follow the show and follow us online everywhere. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we enjoy doing this. So anybody who's got questions, send them to our social media. Ashley loves filtering through that, and we'll do some videos and send those back out your way. How
about that, Leah? He's like, yeah, send us a bunch of social media stuff so Ashley can go through it.
He's like right now, literally.
He's big time. He's big time already. I got people to handle that stuff. Just kidding. Ashley made this happen. So thank you, Ash. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Neil, Leah, good luck. We'll see you in a week. Appreciate you both.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
There goes Neil. There goes Leah. And this is WFO Radio. Share the show so we can defeat the algorithm, guys. Share the show so everybody can see that amazing interview. And it is great. Of course, Mike Domagala and everybody that is involved in the team. The behind the scenes stories of how it was like coming together, when it was coming together. It wasn't just like a happy, positive story and we hired everybody. It was like, who are they going to get? What are they going to do? And to see it now clicking and working and taking shape and coming together, where they're third in the points and they're only like 9 out of second. So this is a team that is in position. Who knows what will happen on the Western Swing? And that's why you got to watch NHRA TV or NHRA on Fox. And of course, subscribe to WFO Radio. All right, guys, put your comments in the comments section. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, just giving my takes at the end of this deal. We're going to hear what you have to say, and then we're going to get on out of here. WFO After Dark, Under the Lights. Let me tell you about the people who make it possible for me to do my show. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. We got a brand new podcast up and available. Billy Godbold, part of it. Lake Speed, part of it. Amazing stuff. Ben Strader, just going deep into techery. Like a lot of ring seal, a lot of when should the exhaust valve open type stuff. You'll really like it. FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. These guys, they are doing a great job for everybody with a very powerful engine connected to an automatic transmission. So Top Sportsman, Top Dragster, Pro Mod, so many great race-winning cars are using FTI, but also .90, Super Gas, Super Comp, Super Street, and Big Money Bracket races. FTIperformance.com. Check them out. Foggit. This is Gary Stinnett's company. Gary Stinnett is a racer who invented this. He's an engine builder, and he recognized there was a problem. It's like these engines begin to rust and corrode immediately when you put them in the trailer after a night of racing. What can we do? Well, you got to fog it down. You got to spray the inside of the cylinders down the carburetor or in the spark plug holes with something. What is it? People were using WD-40. They were using transmission fluid. What? He invented something. FOGGIT. They've got a contingencies program for the divisional racers. You should definitely check it out. Foggit.com. Bernie Speed Shop. This is Josh Hart. 100,000 square feet, Ocala, Florida. Buying classic cars, selling classic cars, selling them on consignment classic cars, e-bikes. It's a dealership, all kinds of great stuff. My job, make you go like their social media. Go just check out their social media, follow them on the Instagram, and you'll see what they've got. The next time you need a frame-off restoration, contact Josh because he's doing a lot of great things over there. And then there's Phillips Connect. How about what Leah and Neil said about Justin? This is their competitor. He is their competitor. He's everybody's competitor, and he's doing really well. And I've never heard anyone say anything negative about Justin, but this wasn't negative. This was positive. Like he's just a genuine human being. And that's why Jim Epler wanted to use drag racing to promote Phillips Connect, the smart trailer technology. So if you're in the transportation industry, then reach out. You can even reach out to me, Joe at WFOradio.com. And I can put you together. Personalized introduction. If you've got trucks, fleet of trucks, and you want to keep them safe, Phillips-Connect.com. Of course, Marvin Rodax, coffeeandgrills.com, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, and Samtech for the next generation of engine builders and machinists. We need them so desperately. We need them like we need the next generation of crew chiefs. All right, let's see what everybody's got to say. Matt Clark, great interview, Joe. Leah's a driver. She's known for her, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's saying. She's doing a good job. Foggit in your two-stroke stuff. Great stuff. Yes, everything with an inside of an engine. Great show tonight. Glad to see Leah and Neil are doing a great job at the races. Thank you, Carl. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, it was. Rick, thanks, guys. We appreciate you. Go TSR. Jeremy Patterson. Hey, congrats to you and the TSR Nitro team. Excellent. Last year at Bandamere, Leah was signing autographs late every night. Great ambassador for Mopar. Oh, absolutely. No, well, that's the thing. The winner's circle. You hang at the winner's circle, like every single person. Hagen does that too. Like every single person. A couple of years ago at Bandamere, Leah signed for every single person and then got everybody in for a big group photograph. Like, come on, get in the photo. Every person that was randomly just standing there. It was an amazing moment. Here's one. Hey, Joe, more after hours driver and crew chief winter shows equals more better. This was great. Awesome. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Bob was out there in Norwalk. All right, guys. That is going to do it. WFO After Dark. The numbers were okay. Can always be better. We're going up against that algorithm. Hopefully after the, the non-live show numbers will be even better. Please subscribe. Click the bell. Be ready for all kinds of WFO stuff. We got a lot of good stuff coming on. This is going to be the final show this week. 4th of July, right? The week's already over. Got a whole bunch of things that we're working on behind the scenes. Next week, we'll be back with Alan Reinhart. And get ready for Bandamere. Apparently, I'm heading there on Wednesday. Oops. That's all right. Monica says go TSR. Eric. Awesome interview. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you. WFO After Dark. Didn't know. Yeah, it's the first time kind of thing. Back when I was on satellite, my show time was 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. It was a great gig. I didn't show up to work until 4 and think about work until 2. It was great. And part of me thinks that there's more people at home, but we like people watching while they're at work. Thanks to all the WFO sponsors. The show is always on fire. Yeah, you can get a t-shirt just like this in the WFO store, by the way. People are asking about it. You think there'll be jet cars in Bandamere? I don't know. Yeah, we didn't get an ignition show this week. What did you do for 4th of July, guys? hopefully you had a great time. I went to New York City, and I went to see the New York Yankees on the 3rd, and then I traveled on the 4th. It was a good time, though. Thank you so much, Tony Stewart Racing, Leah, Neil, that whole team. There's a lot of guys on there. Have been really cool to me over the years, and it's great to see them do well. Awesome stuff. All right, guys. Appreciate all of you. Thank you very much. Thanks to Leah. Thanks to Neil. WFO.